Welcome back to Burning the Red Shirt. Chris Kay, Andrew Katz. Valentine's Day weekend. We're going to talk about things, players, coaches, schedules we love this season. Just kidding. I don't know what we're going to talk about. I wanted to see what kind of reaction I would get out of you, Andrew.
When are you getting a theme song for Bowling with My Bestie?
It's totally on Ethan and myself. We need to do it, and people have said, "Oh yeah, I can help you with that," and I just haven't.
Contract Zach.
I'm not contracting Zach. The guy's a schmuck.
Well, I assume you'll have some prime clips at least.
Well, we're not going to do clips. I imagine we're going to do some sort of like audio. I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's typically the least of my worries. Yeah. And baby steps. We create show sheets for this thing. So baby steps. You don't want to go off the deep end.
Fine.
Plus, I don't think anything can beat this intro.
It is top tier. What are you drinking?
It's a bubbly. Blackberry.
Nice. Solid. We used to mess around with those at Salesforce, and then I think they did something that was not aligned with our political leaning, so we canned them. But dude, we got like some off-brand kombucha now at Salesforce office, so I just murder those all day. It's great.
We used to have we were startup. We used to have awesome stuff in the office. Beer, Monsters, Red Bulls.
Yeah.
Every seltzer, every Coke, etc. But now I work at remote, and our snacks suck at my house. So I have only myself to blame.
I haven't seen any alcohol at Salesforce since the day we started working at the Salesforce Tower post acquisition. That day they brought out like some like beer and wine and stuff, but it's not quite the same as the startup days when the keg was in the kitchen, you know?
Yep, got to have the kegerator. Yeah, they had to implement a 2-drink only rule, no drinks until 4 o'clock rule. When some guys went out to lunch, had a couple margaritas, came back, and then told one of the VPs to F off in front of everybody. So then that kind of ruined it for everybody. But live and learn.
Yeah. We had some amendments made as well when one guy who didn't he didn't make it a full week. Like by day 5, like he was started drinking at like noon, and then was saying some weird stuff to like some sales guys, and then was saying some really not okay stuff to some females, and you can imagine how that went.
Yeah, never good. Speaking of living and learning, what do you think about the way too early draft that took place in the show? I imagine you've listened to Jared's podcast.
I have not. I haven't had as much podcast time as usual. I prioritized you guys and started listening to Ballin this morning. I appreciated the Chick-fil-A reference. That I respect it. The no discounts.
No discounts, yeah.
But like, yeah, fuck them for closing on Sundays. Like,
I mean, what do you expect out of a company that's closed on Sundays? They do things a little bit differently, for sure.
Yeah, it's performative. But that half the time that I want to go, like to the location that's like fairly local to me, is like on Sunday, and it just can't happen. So they get less of my money, and I'm sure they're feeling the financial impact of that. But back to the early draft, I've been looking at some of the draft board that have gotten posted for some of these early basketballs. I don't think it's Jared's, like the one that's going right now. I've been looking at, and then I did look at Jared's as well when the entire like 10 or whatever rounds was put out there. It's funny to see, as you would expect, like how different things are going from draft to draft right now, for a bunch of different reasons you can expect, right? Like there's no like just the innate nature of CFB going from one year to the next, the lack of resources that are available at this point, like who is really drafting at this point, like the amount of money that's been committed to CFF fantasy leagues for a 25-26 season is less than like $300 in total market cap for the CFF industry. So, but and then also just it's been noted so many different places and times, right? But like how much turnover there is this year from 24 to 25 versus 23 to 24, just feels like there is a real drop in returning production, and we're feeling the effects of that, just in terms of like there being a lack of certainty and a lack of like locked in players near the top of the draft.
Yeah, I mean, once you listen to the Jared's Way Too Early show where we all kind of chat through our picks and stuff like that, everybody has like the same takeaway. I joked with all the guys that like our next draft together is just going to be everybody taking running backs in the first round, because like that's everybody's takeaway was like running. I'm going to want to, what's your strategy moving forward? Oh, I want to draft running backs early, because like we only feel like there's 10 or 12 of them that are like locked into like a role that is reasonable. I think the draft that you're referencing is this Chris. Is it?
Are you in it?
I'm not in it. No, Jerry's in it, and I saw the tweet with the picture. Chris Battistel.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Dude, I am unfamiliar with his game, but the guy's got incredible voice.
Oh, really?
Oh, just wait till the Jared show episode. Okay. I'm telling you right now, I was like A+. I don't know if he listens to this, but like A+. That guy's got truly a radio voice, DJ voice.
Very cool.
Right. I thought he did a great job with the analysis too. I wasn't necessarily in line with his picks, so I'll give him a little bit of the humble pie here. Wasn't necessarily in love with his picks. I mean, who loved their picks, period, at this draft? But incredible voice and analysis. I think there's some really interesting picks here, and it's like you kind of mentioned, like there's not really we're seeing a lot of differences because we only have like 2 or 3 drafts. We have zero knowledge. It's Valentine's Day-ish weekend for recording. Like, it's just kind of a crazy beginning. There's some really interesting names. Let's start with one of them. Give me your thoughts on the white Lamar Jackson.
Dude,
Blake Horvath, the Navy quarterback.
I love Blake Horvath. I remember watching his like first game where you kind of started to see it on Thursday night in 2023 against Memphis. I think he is when he really kind of broke out or splashed on the scene. I think he came on in relief of that game. And then he, of course, in true Blake Horvath form, he also got hurt. But you could just see how, like the dude is so twitchy and quick. He had a couple of fumbles in that game, as is known to occur for Blake as well. But longtime fan. I don't know how I feel about him going that high. It's interesting. Like, what if I think about I've thought about this for a few different players. Like, what if their season just ended after week 14? Where would they be going in drafts? He's like a good example, I think, because like I think he's getting a bump from the bowl game, which is fine, and also from the Army-Navy game, where I think he did pretty well in that too. But
he did incredible in that game,
yeah. My recollection is that the back half of his regular season wasn't that great, and he got off to an incredible start first 3, 4, 5 weeks, and then from there kind of fizzled. Very injury driven. The guy is like maybe not made of glass in the sense of how we see with like players that, all right, you're probably getting like 3 or 4 games and then they're out for the year, but he feels like he's always banged up, and like the nature of the position and the way that he plays the position is going to lend itself to that as well. But has he ever gone at more than like a 2, 3, 4 game stretch of being healthy?
I don't know. He only played 11 games.
Yeah.
What did he play? I guess it was 11. So it feels like he missed almost a month, but really he only missed like 1 game because of the way that Army Navy plays.
Yeah.
So he had like double buys and a missed game due to injury. I don't know. I think the reason that back half looks so tough was because Notre Dame is Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. And then they also played Tulane. But like, what's the deal? Like, why was he not great against USF and Rice?
He had a back injury, and he had another injury on top of that at the same time. But the back injury, I think, was what he said. He got grilled on that going into the Army game, the Army game, and it was like, yeah, I'm good to go or whatever. But I thought he had something else, another injury going on at the same time. But I think it's fair to assume that like the injury was impacting his performance for a good part of the season. But I think that's just going to come with the territory with him. Great for best ball, though. Like I'm not that interested in trying to figure out which weeks he's going to drop 60. But he's probably going to give you some amazing games.
Yeah, I like him. I think it's a little rich. I think he was taking like QB5 in this one with.
Yeah, it feels high for sure.
I would say though, like, I don't know. it seems like we probably are overstating him from like a full season picture, like early thoughts and early ADP. But at the same time, I'm trying to wrap my head around more of like, I need upside for weeks in like, how much value is it that like he could be QB1 for 5 weeks? It kind of feels like, you know what, like I'll take a chance on the rest of the week sucking and him having like 3 bye weeks essentially, because Army Navy's post our best ball season.
Yeah.
And just getting those 5 top 3 quarterback weeks. Does that make sense?
I guess.
I'm not sure how valid that is. I'm trying to think about like if that's worth it. Is it worth it to just get 5 insane weeks and the rest of them be average to bad and it not matter? Because that feels like the worst case.
I could see it being advantageous and being that not positive.
So I like him. That's too much. 303 in this draft, a little bit too much.
Yeah, I agree.
What about Yassine Willis at Syracuse?
I was trying to remember if I have him on any teams or if it's I'll talk to him in a second. But the other guy that I'm surprised he hadn't gone in the top 7.5 rounds in this draft going on right now, considering people like everyone, it feels like from every corner can't stop talking about how effing amazing he is. But I guess when you put your money behind it, it's a little different. But the other guy that I was going to bucket with Horvath in terms of what if the season cut off after week 14, like Sam Levitt, I haven't listened to much, so I don't know actually where people think of him from a fantasy perspective. And maybe it's just like the bullshit, like on 3 and 247 graphics and stuff talking him up. But like, it feels like he is getting a bump from like playoff and stuff like that. But like, I don't know. I'm just not. You ranked him really high, didn't you? In your
whoa. What are you talking about? Ranking him really high?
You put him as like a top 2 round player in your.
I predicted. I'm doing exactly what you're talking about. I'm predicting the fact that there's that playoff bump. Don't come for me, Andrew. I have an early top 30 quarterback rankings for P4 only, and I have him at quarterback 13.
Okay.
And there's he's kind of in that tier of like Josh Hoover, Sorsby, Taylor Green, Austin Simmons, Marcel Reed, and Dante Moore. Like 6 or 7 guys that I feel like you could probably mix and match, and it's probably not a big deal.
Yeah.
But I think you're a little right, but what do you think he finished as last year in P4 only, quarterback-wise?
I was looking at like Fantrax all 130 and whatever league I was looking at, he was like QB 29 overall.
He's quarterback 19 for P4 only in fantasy points per game. Because he missed a few games. Remember, he missed we had those few moments of Jeff Sims. Who do you think had more fantasy points per game, him or Carson Beck?
Him.
Beck by 0.1. Who do you have? What about him and Josh Hoover?
Good one. I'll go Hoover.
Levitt by 0.03. So all that to say is like I think Hoover is great. I think now Carson Beck's an interesting option, different situation, but like he was just insanely efficient. He was great on the ground, and if he just can get some volume up, like don't you think they're going to throw it more than like 24 times a game now that Scadaboo's gone?
I don't know.
They have a better receiver group, right? And there's no Scadaboo. You think they throw it?
They could. I feel like there's got to be somewhat of a letdown this year.
Well, he's also was a first-year starter as a redshirt freshman, his first year starting, and he was a redshirt freshman. Like I think there's growth opportunity as well in terms of performance. I will agree though. Like I think the list was like he's the number 1 like quarterback or breakout quarterback. I saw that same graphic and thought the same thing.
What I actually want to happen is I want people to pump him up so I can hate on them pumping him up, but they're not pumping him up yet. Maybe I just need to give it a little time.
It's early in the pump and dump phase of the off season, but it's happening.
Yassine Willis. So I thought I owned him in a league, but I owned a strange man named Malachi James who doesn't appear to actually get the football ever. So I don't know. Is Yasin Wallace, is he one of those guys who like skipped the senior year? I feel like there's something interesting about him.
I don't know what he did in terms of high school, but I do know he's a large individual.
Oh,
okay. 6'1", 226. He's a big boy.
Yeah, it does feel like a decent amount of projection, like you would expect, kind of across the board with so much production leaving college football from last year to this year. But that one is like a lot of projection, right? Like, what have we seen from him? Has he had like a good game or anything really?
36 for 130 and a touchdown on the season last year. 8 for 62 and a touchdown against UNLV.
Yeah,
this one feels This feels like the old school. I want the running back for X team, so whoever I think the next guy up is going to be amazing, right? It just does feel like a lot of projection. Not necessarily wrong, but it does feel like a lot of projection.
Totally.
So, what about speaking of big boys, have you seen Sire Gaines? Have you seen his ESPN page, his photo? He looks like a 40-year-old. He just looks like a grown man, like shoulders that are huge. 6 foot 208. Once you listen to the Jared pod, there's a lot of Sire Gaines love in there. And I'm just not sure I'm buying it. I'm not quite there on the buying it yet. Is that who you presume would be the running back one for Boise?
I don't know. If I assume we won't get much clarity early. Sherrod kind of interests me.
Do you know how big Sherrod is?
How what?
How big Sherrod is?
He's small, right?
He's small. He's like 5'8", 170.
Yeah.
I just realized that earlier. That's why I brought it up.
But we questioned that, I think, going into 2023, and then he ended up having a really good year, right?
Yeah, I think this is a hard part. There was tons of Sire Gaines love going into last year, right? People were calling him the running back team. Then he got banged up, but so did Breezy, and now we have Sherrod coming in, so it's a fresh face.
Yeah,
and there's this like whole idea that Sire Gaines is explosive because of like 30 carries worth, 20 carries worth of action. And we know what we have in Sherrod, which is not necessarily explosive, but he has a bunch of games of like heavy usage. So his size isn't as worrisome to me as like you were kind of alluding to. I don't know. It's kind of like the shiny new toy versus the savvy veteran.
Has Gaines gone high in the draft?
Sire Gaines went 309 in this draft.
That's really high.
It's insane, right? That feels high to me. How could you? I don't know. I think there's a theory that 2 of 3 Boise running backs could be valuable.
Yeah.
So if you feel like you have a 66%, what is that? Like a 66% chance that you hit on one by going Sire Gaines, is it worth it at 309?
Still feels high.
That feels high to me, especially because we have a zero idea. Like I know as much as like people think they have an idea, it's mid-February. We don't have any idea.
Agreed. Have you solved the riddle with who's going to be quarterback for Western Michigan or Rice?
Shockingly, no.
No.
You're doing a lot of depth chart work, which is like the first step towards unspeakable things. But what do we know about the Western Michigan quarterback job?
I don't know. Hayden Wolf is out of eligibility, but just by going by like game counts and stuff. And then JD Davis, the guy who was like supposed to be hotshot true freshman last year, never saw the field, but like there's spring game recaps of him just stealing the show, and then I don't know what happened, but he just transferred to Alabama A&M.
JD Davis went to Alabama A&M.
Yeah, could have been better.
It's always funny how there are these guys
that him now.
Darlings that people love, and then they just go absolutely nowhere. But yeah. What about Michael Braskia from Colgate?
I don't know who that is.
Colgate transfer.
Oh, that could be the answer, I guess, right? The FCS got transfers. I started adding them, like the guys moving up. Initially, I wasn't tracking them on my transfer sheet because I was like, who fucking cares? But then, like, I saw enough of them landing at spots where it's like, oh, that guy's probably actually going to be productive in his FBS home. Let me start tracking those. But I didn't do that until like late in the transfer season, so I missed a bunch. But yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know who that guy is, but like, it's not gonna like. It feels like there's like pretty much nothing there in that room.
Do we care about if there's anything there?
Probably not.
Probably not.
They were so bad last year.
What about Rice? What do you got cooking at Rice?
Is Rice the school that brought in like the coach from like Davidson, and that he runs like a super run heavy
like Veer? It's like a Veer thing, I think.
Yeah,
that's the guy you're talking about. Yeah,
I don't know
Davidson's
what they have going on. Like Warner went to Fresno, right? And there was like a time, like 2 years ago, it felt like they had like 4 quarterbacks who could all like complete passes, which at the G5 level is like it's a lot. But then they all like transferred places, and then I don't even know who Warner's backup was last year, but maybe that guy's still around. I try to avoid cheating and actually looking at the school rosters until I get like really far along. But maybe I'm forgetting a name on Rice.
Yeah, it's an option football, so it's option offense. So yeah, I don't know. You'd have to ask Mox. Mox is the only one that would be able to accurately tell us what to expect.
That seems fair,
because it's FCS and it's in his neck of the woods because it's Davidson.
Are they Carolina? Oh yeah, they are. They are.
Yeah. So yeah. What about who else? Who else did I think was an interesting pick? You're in on Hawaii, aren't you? You're like way in on. Yeah, you're way in on Alahado.
Yeah.
What do you think about the fact that they're gonna have 3 bye weeks? You're a little shaky on Horvath's 3 bye weeks.
Well, it's different because I like it's Hawaii.
Well, do they get 13 games?
No, I just mean like in my heart. It's
yeah. Well, yes, of course, right, but they don't get 13 games. Just the team
it's criminal that they don't schedule 13. I believe that they've only scheduled 12 this year, which is like who is running that football program? No one with a brain. That's who. Yeah, only 12. So not optimal. One of my next to-dos is I'm gonna add like all the G5 teams to my schedule matrix, and then kind of see. But like some of the conferences haven't even announced dates yet. Mountain West hasn't announced dates.
G5 stuff haven't given like an official like schedule yet.
We got one conference last week. I think it was Conference USA, which gave us like another week 0 game because Sam Houston and Western Kentucky are now week 0. For better,
are they?
For better and for worse, right? Because like that makes the buffet a little better. But now those two teams lose a game on from a fantasy perspective.
Who do we care about at Western Kentucky?
Oh, dude, you're not in on Maverick MacGyver?
Oh, there is that. Yeah. I've listened to
that. Is very exciting.
That is an interesting one. Yes, I forgot about that.
Because you know the whole deal, right? His coach is the OC there now.
It's like kind of like a mini recreation of Houston Baptist circa 2020 or whatever.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, like there. I don't see any reason to draft a QB before like round 10 at least, maybe 15 this year. There's like that.
You're gonna run that back. Remember when a few of us did that randomly? I think Mike did it. I did it once. You did it.
Yeah, I did it.
How did that go for us? Those rounds. Didn't we do that in the Champ Series? I feel like we should go back and look.
Yeah, I've done it. I did it. I think I did it last year in my first Champion Series. From like a pure QB perspective, I think I hit on most, or like there were only like a couple busts, but it just feels like that position has so much more certainty than every other. Like, why wouldn't I do that?
I mean, it is pretty insane how many of those there are. Like, there's so many good options. So Mike doesn't listen to this anyways. So Mike did it in the first Champ Series last year. You want to guess at how he did?
11.
He got 12th by 300 points. Mox was 11th, and he got 300 points behind him. Do you want to get? Oh, these quarterbacks are so good. You ready for this? Donovan Smith, Brendan Sorsby, Blake Shapen, Ashton Daniels, Curtis Rourke, Luke Altmaier, Mikey Keene, and Jenkins, the FIU guy. So he took 8, and he still did what he did.
Those aren't that bad. Like they're like when a lot of my misses, I feel like were a lot worse than that. He had some injury luck there, and I don't know. He didn't really capture upside, which is like what you made.
Well, he thought he did. He thought he did with Smith and Shapen and Daniels.
Yeah, what you might expect from waiting 20 rounds to take a quarterback played out. I guess that was like pretty.
He got hurt early. No shade at Mike. Mike knows what he's doing, but he just got some bad luck. Like Royals didn't play half the season. Dalvin Smith was a bust. Harden stunk. Sawchuk was not the guy. Fegan got hurt. Cole Wilson was shockingly really not good. So he had some early picks that just didn't pan out on top of the quarterback.
I've been let's just get too narrow real quick. I've been thinking about Shapen for 2025 lately. Okay. What do you think?
I mean, sure. I don't know. They wouldn't have thrown 400 passes. They didn't throw 400 passes combined last year at Mississippi State.
Well, you would think breaking in a true freshman quarterback might have some impact.
I was just gonna say, but on the other hand, Van Buren was kind of a runner, plus the fact that he's a freshman. So, do you think he gets to 400 attempts?
They clearly altered the game plan in a way to, I don't know how to put it, minimize their likelihood of getting blown out.
To keep them from only winning 2 games.
Well, they did. I thought that it was one of the most impressive coaching jobs of 2024. They were in every game.
Winning 2 games was an impressive feat.
They're you can find on other pods. There's a discussion of how much other teams actually tried against Mississippi State and stuff, but I followed so many of their games so closely because I can't think of another school that took more of my money in the prop market. Because I was betting, and when Shapen got hurt, I would start betting unders on their passing, their running game every week, and every week they're going over. They're moving the ball on these supposedly great defenses. They're scoring points. Van Buren threw for 300 plus on UGA. They moved the ball no problem against Texas and Florida, relatively speaking, compared to expectations. I thought I at a certain point I tipped my cap to Levy and I was like, all right, I'm just staying away. I can't bet this shit anymore.
I think it was impressive because their offense, in the first year where they true freshman quarterback, actually did seem like they knew it or trying to do what they were doing. It was fairly well. They didn't play in as many close games as you think, though.
Through the first, some of them got away down near the back end of the games, but I don't know. The games were not blowouts for most of the games, is my memory.
Most of them ended in the teens, between 10 and 20. Yeah, okay. I think you kind of have it right for sure. It's not a bad coaching job by any means, but
yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, I think Shapen will be a good pick, but
they're presumably paying the Florida State kid a bunch of money, but that kid's trash, right?
People love Croman Hook. Mox loves Croman Hook, and then a bunch of other C2C guys love Croman Hook.
Yeah.
I like Van Buren. I wish he would have just stayed.
I know.
That would have made things interesting.
$2 million in a backup at LSU has its merits.
There are perks to doing that, yeah.
But I agree. That would have been fun if he ran it back.
I'm trying to see. I could have sworn that I or you did the late quarterback draft, but I can't find.
I thought I did one. Yeah, maybe I'm mistaken.
I can't find it. Maybe another time.
It's fine.
Let's see. Has Shapen been picked in this? No, it doesn't look like he's been picked. do you think about Nussmeier? Me and Jared went back and forth on Nussmeier for a while. Do you think he has 4,040 touchdown potential?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what I would be interested in his September and October versus November per game splits. He was dealing with a very much beat up receiving core in the down the stretch of the season, and he was hurt in the every game. He was either leaving the game in November or coming into the next one with talk about how healthy he was. Of course, in the month of November, more or less, right? Like you're playing less non-conference opponents, so maybe there's some skewing there of per game numbers and stuff. But my recollection in the moment was that his numbers dipped down the stretch, which impacted a few different things, right? His overall season numbers, and then also, in my opinion, that's the only reason he's back is because he skidded out the stretch. Otherwise, if he kind of kept up how his start to middle of the season was throughout the progression of the entire season, he'd probably be going in the first round of the NFL draft in April.
His mid-October to mid-November was bad. It was the problem. Okay. And then he turned it around against Vandy and Oklahoma, and then obviously the bowl game against Baylor. So he was insane the first 5 games of the season.
It was great.
15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 300 yards a game, over that number. But and typically you would say, yeah, your non-con is going to be great, right? But his non-con was Southern Cal, UCLA, Nicholls State was awesome, obviously, 6 passing touchdowns. But he also played at South Carolina in that stretch and South Alabama, who is a respectable G5 opponent. So his non-con, his first 5 games weren't cream puffs. It wasn't it was just a bunch of Nicholls State. So he had a really good start to the season. And if he isn't banged up, I just think he's a good quarterback to begin with. And then we've seen flashes of it at the very least. And now he has 4, he has 4 receivers that can catch a football, without a doubt, right?
And the tight end who can dunk.
The tight end that can dunk, and then the tight end that can catch from Oklahoma. So I think there's just too many options for it to not work.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be awesome.
4-point pass touchdown scoring as well.
I'm in.
Let's see here. What about Dean Connors? Dean Connors is a name that's kind of interesting.
One of the most recent things I feel I listened to, I think it was on Jared's pod, was talking about the sketchy nature of how little receiving production running backs get in that the new system he's in at Houston, which is a little worrisome. I am in wait and see mode, in terms of just where he's going. I feel the ambiguity is kind of priced in that draft that's going right now. Where do you go, 7 or 8 or something? And considering how much guys are getting pushed up that have no track record at all, that's fair. I would maybe a little more of a discount, but I don't think I can argue too much with that. There are questions. It is a little sketchy. I love him. I think he's awesome, but I don't know.
It feels a bad fit to me is the problem.
Yeah.
I just I would be a little concerned because I think they're just not a good offense. And I think it'll take another year. Now, the nice thing is I feel Weigman's pretty decent. He could help, right? Now that he's at Houston. He can throw a forward pass unlike everybody else on the roster couldn't last year. So that's hopeful. But where do you think he went 702 in this Chris draft?
Yeah.
Other names around him: Caleb Douglas, Kevin Coleman, Kanye Udo, Wayshawn Parker, Kevin Jennings, Gleason, Amador, Corey Rucker.
Where does he go if in the spring game he plays 3 drives and catches 6 balls?
I feel this is where you would still want to take him.
You don't think it would be higher?
I just am not sold fully on this yet.
Fair.
Where would you take him if he caught 6 passes and 3 drives?
4, 5, 6, something like that.
So just a little bit ahead.
Yeah.
What about there's someone I was going to ask you about, and now I forget. What about Evan Stewart? He went 607 here in this draft. Why? This is the thing right now. We know an Oregon receiver is going to be great, but there's nobody there that any of us like.
You're not in on Malik Benson?
never in on Malik Benson. There's Justice Lowe, there's Malik Benson, there's Evan Stewart. Like, I've never been in on Evan Stewart, but like, it does feel like the time is now, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like, if you're going to draft Yassine Willis in the 5th round, like, you got to draft Evan Stewart in the 5th round, right?
Yeah, all these guys suck. Like, you would think, maybe it feels like there's a ton of variability just in terms of where production can come from for Oregon this year. It kind of sucks they brought in the Louisville tight end. Like, why can't we just get Sadiq 100 touches a bunch of different ways?
I mean, you're going to listen to that the rest of Ballin' with My Bestie, which is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Oh yeah, I just got into the tight ends,
and I talk a little bit about like STEM score or some athletic score rating thing that Campus to Canton has, and like he rates really, really well. And so I think I might be super in on Sadiq this offseason.
Floor feels really low.
It does feel very low, but like, is it at any tight end?
Most, yeah. Like, I have no idea. I would love, once we get like any sort of real sample size of draft, it'll be super interesting to see where tight ends are going, because there's nothing, right? Nothing coming back.
I don't see any tight ends being taken high. Like, we're in this Chris draft, right? There's 8 rounds and not one tight end has been picked. Like,
hopefully UD doesn't do something dumb and like scrap the tight end position, because I want to see everyone just like cry over what's going on with tight end this year.
I think there's a lot of good options. There's not going to be any great options. Like, we're not coming anywhere near Tyler Warren or Gadsden or Keithy.
Mm-hmm.
That includes you, Boardingham. What do you think? I wanted to talk about Boardingham. That's who I was going to bring up.
The main event.
Yeah, we on the side talked about how bad quarterback play can impact a tight end, and I said that Baselak was the type of bad quarterback that was great for a fan, and you're going to be here defending Baselak as a good quarterback.
Yeah, he's a good quarterback.
He's like, not a good quarterback, dude.
It's a sliding relative scale for sure, but like, there's a lot of bad quarterback play out there, and like that
is valid. He is, but this is what I mean by he's like the doable bad quarterback. Statue can sling it a little bit.
He threw for
really
450 yards on LSU 5 years ago at Missouri.
Yes. He had a shit ton of attempts in his career. Good for him.
Yeah.
I don't think Boardingham is going to be anything. Where are you putting him at? Where are you going?
Not anything. Not anything, but I'm trying to think about the tight ends that now we have a little less of it of tight end fever in Champion Series, since like Greg tweaked the rules where we don't need to. It's like whatever, like 1 in a flex or some shit or whatever. It was more fun when it was like 2 tight ends, or maybe it is still 2. I can't remember, but and like the scoring was like double or whatever, and like Bowers was going 101 and 4 more tight ends were going in the first 2 rounds. Like, that was our peak of
or me drafting Gadsden and then telling Fantrax to make him tight end eligible.
Yeah, that. But I'm trying to recall like what that archetype of tight end was. But my gut instinct is like Boardingham doesn't really fit that. What about him is special or appealing? It's just the idea that like we can cut and paste into a system that targets tight end, right?
The Boardingham case is this: Harold Fannin, Christian Sims before was good, and Boardingham has SEC talent is definitely because he's. I forget
where. I remember Sims like being productive, but if you were to hypothesize Boardingham's production through the lens of what Sims was capable of, and then also account for the quarterback situation at Bowling Green, I think that would be, and then from there think about, okay, where do I want to draft this guy? Like that is a fair way to think about it. Like I think you should ignore like Harold Fannin just put up the best statistical season of all time in NCAA history for a tight end. Why should we use that as a data point whatsoever here?
We shouldn't. I mean, the year before, like 2 years ago, he was great. He went like 55 for 680 and like 5 or 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
But Christian Sims, I've already looked at this. Before that, Christian Sims was like an average of 42, 420, and 4 touchdowns.
So clearing the Froton thresholds, but barely.
Yes, definitely a relevant tight end. Like definitely relevant tight end, but not one that we should be taking like top 5 or 8. Like especially considering I think there are like actual tight ends that are decent, like good. I feel like we're just gonna get a bunch of like 10th rounders. It's just going to be like who takes one first is really what it's going to be. Like who takes one first, and then everybody's like, well, I want to make sure I get my one guy first. But yeah, I think the problem here that nobody is talking about is the quarterback, who you presume to be Lucian Anderson, correct?
Yeah, it's let me look at the depth chart real quick.
It's him or Justin Lamson.
Yeah, so I won't say I've been burned in the sense that like it cost me money directly, which is surprising considering how much I bet on Mac props in terms of frequency and just whatever. But I've been burned in the past by presuming that like based on history where there's these Mac quarterbacks that have shown no ability to throw a football whatsoever, like that I'll be able to copy paste that from one year to the next. But like everything we've seen from Justin Lamson is this dude like should not be allowed to attempt a forward pass. If they can unlock, if he ends up being QB1, which like I don't know if you can discard that possibility. Why should I believe that they're going to be able to throw the football with any sort of competency?
I think if both guys are quarterback, it's a real question mark.
Yeah, well, with Lucien, it's a question mark. With Lamson, like my inclination is
it's an exclamation point.
Yeah, exactly. But weird shit happens in the MAC. I thought that dude Camden Orth couldn't throw. Like he was at Bowling Green for 3 years. He didn't play at all this past year. That's one. 2022. Everything we saw from him is like he couldn't throw at all. But in 2023, him and Basilak were like splitting snaps a decent amount, and Orth was enough of like a passing threat where like defenses had to respect it, and if they didn't, like he was getting the ball out to Teron Keith for 60-yard gains. So I wonder how it ends up looking is kind of similar to 2023 where they're playing both guys at a decent clip. The problem that you can imagine occurring is like who is throwing the ball anywhere near as well as Basilak is to like actually move the ball in obvious passing down situations.
Yeah, I mean Basilak threw for over 3,000 last year.
Yeah.
I can't imagine Lucian Anderson sniffing 3,000.
I know, I agree.
And so what does that actually mean? So I'm not going to be onboarding him if that wasn't obvious already.
You don't have depth charts in front of you, but so I'm happy to help you with this question if you
please
would like it. But assume Micah Aliahato is not available. Who is your QB2 and QB3 in the Mountain West?
I would need to look at who's in the Mountain West first. Give me a second to pull up the list of Mountain West teams. It's quite the assumption to put him first, huh?
Yeah, so we'll say Mike is one. If you're looking.
So I think in contention is Brendan Lewis. No, Brendan Lewis transferred, didn't he? I think Bryson Barnes would be in contention. I think what is it? Emmett, who's the San Jose State guy? Emmett Brown would be in contention.
Eget. Yeah.
Eget. Walker, was it Walker or Walter?
Walker
Eget would be in contention. And then that's like it, right? Like I wouldn't consider Madsen. I wouldn't consider Fowler Nkosi. I don't think UNLV's offense is like cool enough anymore to consider it. So
UNLV, the problem is we don't know who's going to start between your boy Orgy and Calandria. But the system is like ideal with Mullen calling plays. Like that guy.
Oh, you're right. It is Mullen. You're right.
Yeah. I don't know if he's actually calling plays, but like I just assume Dan Mullen is going to make a quarterback successful.
You're right. You're right. I forgot that Mullen went there. I still am iffy on that just because I've seen Orgy way too much, and
Yeah.
it's not good. It's
But
just not
like
good.
this is the dude that turned Nick Fitzgerald into like a top 10 fantasy QB.
Did I ever tell you I met Nick Fitzgerald at a Chainsmokers concert?
No, it's amazing.
I was wearing an Auburn jacket like literally 2 weeks after they beat after Mississippi State beat Auburn. It's pretty great. So yeah, I think that's it. What do you think about Bryson Barnes as a name?
So it's funny you proactively brought it up because I spent an hour or two this week thinking about him and then hit up our boy Patrick Mayhorn at the Ag Ship and like talked with him a little bit about it. Dude, I think I'm ready to be like very in if the price is reasonable. It's so difficult to figure out like what, if any, influence Bronco Mendenhall actually has on offensive play calling, and if like anything that we've seen historically at his previous stops should be expected to travel to Utah State, considering none of his former play callers were brought along. Their OC is this dude who was at San Jose State for like across like 10 years, including the most recent year where he got demoted to coach wide receivers. But like he was OC when Josh Love was there, when Chevin Cordero was there. But if we should assume that like, okay, Bronco is always gonna like, even though I don't understand what he actually does with offense, but his offenses are always cool, exciting, and like translate to quarterbacks doing good shit, including running the ball, right? And like Bryson I think can competently throw a football, but like he is potential game changing, I think, with his legs. There are real questions in terms of surrounding skill talent. They bring back that dude Jack Costera. They bring in Brady Boyd, who I feel like I draft him or pick him up every year in Dynasty just based on he's like, I'm pretty sure it's either him or Coy Eakin is the all-time high school receiving leader. But I confuse them because they both went to Texas Tech. But
Is that it? Is that the only reason why?
Yeah. But I think Brady Boyd, he might have been catching passes from Quinn Ewers in high school. That's the thing that is like memorable about him. But he's at Utah State now. But I don't know like what their skill talent's going to look like in terms of like, okay, what are they going to really be able to do passing game? But owning Broncos quarterbacks has been really good in the past. It doesn't seem like there's going to be like, it seems like it's Bryson's job this year, and we know he's got legs. And I think I've seen enough of him throwing the ball to not really question whether or not he's going to get pulled because he's just a zero throwing the football. Like he has wins that are because he's thrown the ball well or effectively enough. So he's like a great late mid to late round target, I think.
I think Barnes is a cool target, and I think we're to the point where we just should consider Mendenhall like a lot of the reason why there was success. Like it just feels like if it just keeps stringing along to the next place, to the next place.
Right.
I'm fairly positive the guy you were thinking of is Eakin. He had 93 catches for 2,140 yards and 31 touchdowns as a senior.
Not bad.
Solid.
QB2, I think I would put him at my QB2 in the Mountain West. I don't know if it's actually fair to like the reason that what we question about Walker Egan is basically just like all the questions or most of the questions stem from them flipping the script from Emmett Brown to him mid-season. It's like, okay, if they're going to do this, like, should we trust him to actually hold the job all year? I don't know. It's probably tough to put him lower than QB3. My heart wants to put Kay and Anderson at QB3.
Of course.
Yeah. But that doesn't feel smart. I had totally forgotten that New Mexico got that guy, Jack Lane. I haven't looked into their offense and the system and stuff like that to have an opinion about him. And then similarly to UNLV, like I don't think you could have this discussion where you can't put any of the guys at San Diego State into the discussion now because we don't know if it's going to be Denegal or Bert Emanuel. But they're both Like they're very interesting.
Dude, we want it to be Bert Emanuel, don't we?
You're not rooting for, dude, 2 former Michigan QBs in the Mountain West.
Who's the other one?
Orgy.
Oh, Orgy. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, I
Is
guess.
Denegal terrible?
I think he's got like a horrible throwing motion. Like that's the thing I remember from him is that his throwing motion is just the worst thing ever. So, by the way, I found the draft where I went QB heavy.
You mean the QB heavy or the opposite?
Heavy at the end.
Heavy at the
end. So I took 9 quarterbacks. I took them all from round 19 to the end. So there were 3 picks that were not quarterbacks in this last 11 rounds, 12 rounds. What a bunch of great names I took. DJU, EJ Warner, Aiden Childs, AJ Duffy, Daquan Finn, Mikey Keene, Graham Mertz, Blake Shapen, Hudson Card.
Was there a single hit in there?
Of quarterbacks? No, I don't think so. Guess where I finished?
How could it not be 12?
4th.
Wow, that's impressive.
I had Tez Johnson, Woody Marks, Tootin, Gadsden, Scadaboo, Travis Hunter, Corey Kiner,
Nice.
And everybody's favorite pump and dump from 2024.
I don't know.
Chris Tyree. Dual eligibility. I had to get the dual eligibility in there. So yeah, I'm glad I found it.
AJ Duffy now bypassing the FCS for Division II.
I love it when guys just do that. Like, what's the difference, right? Just go to wherever you want to go.
I can't recall that ever happening.
Didn't Austin Mack do that? Like, didn't one of those former? No, it wasn't him. It was a different Washington quarterback that like went like from Washington to some.
Heward went to Sacramento State. Have we discussed that I'm becoming a leader of the Sacramento State fan base? Right now,
I have not discussed that. No.
I haven't started to like form my image publicly, but like I feel like I've got to go public at some point. But I'm gonna help see us from the FCS into the FBS and be a leader of the pack for Brennan Marion and crew. They can't stop us with our Warchest, our NIL.
50 million and NIL.
Yeah, we're going to bring all the guys that have 5 stars that got cast off 3 different teams. And then maybe if I have, depending on how much say they give me, maybe we'll unleash the Warchest to bring in 8 offensive linemen at $2 million a pop. We're going to run Ajay Hall as quarterback and just we're going to get 3 to 4 yards every play because no one is getting any push on that offensive line, the $16 million offensive line. And it's just we're gonna run it's gonna be a mix of the go-go offense, obviously with Brennan Marion, but like with my own personal flavor. But it's gonna be great. And we're gonna usher that era we'll play it out in the FCS this year, and then we'll see where we land, which conference we bestow our greatness upon in 2026, 2027, but it's wheels up.
I feel like this is a great PSA for not doing drugs. It was like that right there. That 1 minute is like a commercial. And it's like, that is why we don't do peyote, everybody. Only Sacramento State could do it with their war chest. I'm just kind of still shocked at the fact that I could finish 4th with those quarterbacks and 9 of them.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. What draft number was that?
It was not even a champ series. It was C2C Fam Best Ball 2.
Oh, okay.
So it was not in a champ series. I should have maybe done it in a champ series. Maybe I would have done better than I did last year. I need you to listen to the rest of Balling with My Bestie so then we can then talk about one tight end strategy on Underdog.
How far did you find yourself having to stretch to like, shit, I got to fill content on tight ends? Did it come naturally or?
It came naturally. Yeah, I thought so. Because we had 2 weeks in between shows, like I did a bunch of research and then I just did a little bit more and I looked at a little bit more of something else. And it was natural. The BS was natural. I will say on the episode, I say I'll look up like how tight ends do in non-conference. Did you get to that part?
No.
I come to this thought of like, well, maybe they do really well in non-conference, and like we should really ignore them because like all we're doing is chasing the first month of production.
Yeah.
Not the case. Not the case. It's pretty standard. Their production lines up like fairly normal with the typical percentage of production should be. So this is what we do in the middle of February.
How much airtime did Ethan demand for Khalil Dinkins?
None. We don't talk any Dinkins.
Surprising.
We talk Rappelier and Luke Reynolds.
Of course, they have just an endless stream of 4 and 5 star tight ends that we always dynasty equity on.
I'm in on them too, by the way. They have a good score for the athletic rating, and the system fits. And Drew Allard only knows how to throw the tight ends, so like, I don't know why they wouldn't be good. I like the athleticism portion of it, and the more I talk to Mox about it, the tight end expert, he's very convinced that like if you have to be athletic or just be in the best system, which is on par with like what we've seen.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like Gadsden's not athletic, but he's just used as a cheat code.
Fair.
So, any final thoughts or questions, Andrew?
We had to cut the Mountain West. I had a lot more Mountain West bullets.
Give me one more Mountain West conversation though.
Air Force as a team, I think, is super interesting. Just because
that's where we wanted to go. I give you one more. And you want to go to Air Force?
They put it together so well down the stretch. Like it, like actually looked from game logs, of course, not actually watching college football.
Do you know why? Because they gave it to Dylan Carson like 100 times. It was awesome.
Well, they started calling the good plays. They started actually running the option again.
Is he back?
I think so.
Why wouldn't we be all in on Dylan Carson? By the way.
Yeah, it's a good point. Is he not gone in any drafts that you've been in so far?
I don't think so. I mean, we're only 8 rounds in. Like,
I assume he's in anyway. By the way, when I was perusing Air Force's roster, they have they subscribe to the Sacramento State philosophy as well. They have a guy listed as a QB DB. My favorite thing where you take your fastest DB and put him as a quarterback. So they're thinking ahead.
They're prepping. The scout team is prepping for Sacramento State's joining the Mountain West.
Yeah. Let's see here. Is this the 2025 roster for? He's listed on the 2025 roster. Carson, like, dude, I'm totally in. And like,
it just if you think about it, right? Like, it is shocking how good he was at the end of last season.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know why he wouldn't be. Oh God, there's a St. Louis Cardinals player named Dylan Carlson.
I did the same thing, of course.
Dude, this is his game log for the last month, last 4 games. 24 for 125 and 2 touchdowns, 14 for 105 and a touchdown, 26 for 97 and a touchdown. That was Oregon State. 33 for 120 and a touchdown. I was in on Dylan Carson to begin last year. I don't know why I would not be in 2025.
Same, for sure.
So, well, I'm glad you went the Air Force route because that's a name I had thought about and just forgotten to bring up. All right. Well, hope everybody enjoyed this episode. We're becoming a weekend pod. I never saw that coming, but we're becoming a weekend podcast. Chris, I hope you're enjoying your bird watching. Other Chris, this is a big show for Chris. Is Chris Betta still? Great voice. Keep it up the good work. And enjoy your Valentine's Day, and we'll catch you guys maybe next week.